in boxing, but I do think when you actually come up against a proper serious boxer, and I suspect that Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. may be that person, it could all come crashing down.
Piers, is that you think that your opinion matters?
No, I don't think it's good. I think you train hard, but it's not good fighter.
Point is, I think he's coming into this fight with the right approach, with the right mindset.
Renowned boxing experts are predicting a brutal end for JakePaul, forecasting a 5th-round knockout loss at the hands of Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. According to analysts, Chavez's deep boxing pedigree, raw punching power, and superior ring intelligence will likely dismantle Paul before the bout reaches its final rounds. With Chavez being a former world champion who has fought seasoned opponents, many believe this will be JakePaul's biggest and possibly most humbling test inside a professional boxing ring.
So I've just interviewed your opponent, Julio, very confident, says he's going to knock you out in the 9th round.
Yeah, man, you know, he's a dumbass, and so it's going to be apparent on Saturday when he's the one that gets knocked out.
Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. wasted no time critiquing JakePaul's boxing ability. While he acknowledged Jake's effort and commitment to training, he insisted that hard work alone doesn't translate to real skill in the ring. Chavez emphasized that boxing is a complex craft rooted in intuition, movement, timing, and true in-fight experience, none of which Jake has convincingly displayed at a world-class level. For Chavez Jr., Paul is still learning a game he's trying to master too quickly.
But one thing I've gotten off him during this week is that he's viewing this fight as at least a pathway to some form of redemption. He's not going to get all his fans back. He's not going to redeem himself on the eyes of the fans of his father. But if he can beat JakePaul and beat him convincingly, maybe you don't think quite so much about quitting against Daniel Jacobs or against Fanfara or that terrible performance against Anderson Silva. Like, I think the point is, I think he's coming into this fight with the right approach, with the right mindset. I promise you, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. is not just here for a payday. He is not just here to collect a check and to get whitewashed by JakePaul over 10 rounds. He's coming to win. He may not win. Jake could turn out to be even better than maybe people generally think, but he's coming to win, and I think it's going to be a competitive fight.
British TV host and columnist Piers joined the conversation, questioning JakePaul's legitimacy as a boxer. He criticized Paul's track record of avoiding credible opponents, highlighting that Chavez Jr. will be the first truly dangerous boxer Jake has encountered. According to Morgan, this isn't just another show fight, it's a real test against someone who knows how to win at a professional level. Many insiders agree Chavez Jr. has both the technical tools and mental edge to defeat JakePaul with authority.
Shit, YouTube this, YouTube that, Disney that. This shit is not a joke. I'm knocking out the best of the best, beating all of these people time in and time again. And it's about time that you old heads and all these fucking boxers who think they know about the sport put some respect on my name.
Yeah, but you're not going to get... Look, you're going to make a ton of money. Listen, I think as a businessman, you are brilliant, right? I give you full credit for that. When you took on Mike Tyson as a business enterprise, there's no argument. You absolutely crushed the numbers, crushed the money and everything else. But the idea that you can say on the one hand, I'm a killer, I get in the ring with the best people, and you get in the ring with a guy who's 50, he's literally nearly as old as me.
I'm not talking about Mike Tyson. I'm talking about Anderson Silva, Tyrone Woodley, champions in their sport, Golden Gloves champions, Ryan Moreland, Andre August, undefeated fighters. The list goes
but
on and on.
What great boxer have you been in the ring with?
Former world champion on Saturday, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., son of the greatest Mexican fighter of all time, besides me, of course. Like, I don't know what you guys want to see. I tried to fight Canelo. He ducked out of it. You asked him about that. You said he's going to kill me. So what do you want? You're laughing when you say, oh, Jake is going to fight Canelo. I think you would kill him. But then you're like, oh, you're not fighting this guy. You're the problem here with this whole situation and criticism of my career. I'm trying to fight the best people, and that's why Chavez is here on Saturday. I want Canelo. I want Anthony Joshua. I want all these people. It's been 5 years in this sport.
But the problem is the only proper boxer you fought was Tommy Fury, and he beat you. And he's not even the best. He's not even the best fighter in his family.
Golden Gloves champion Andre August, Brian Borland as well. Anderson Silva was an undefeated boxer. I mean, you can sit there and make up shit, but you actually don't know your facts. I fought multiple boxers with professional records, and including Mike Tyson himself, who I think is going to be a harder fight than Chavez.
Veteran trainer Robert Garcia added fuel to the fire by claiming that Chavez Jr. doesn't need to pull off anything spectacular. He simply needs to box the way he knows how. According to Garcia, the gap in class is too wide for Jake Paul to overcome with years of experience, natural athleticism, and the ability to adapt mid-fight. Chavez Jr. has the attributes of a real boxer, while Jake, by comparison, is still navigating the basics of the sweet science.
I love that dude. He's cool. I love that dude.
He's gonna win.
Okay, if he wins, what does it say?
Nothing.
Chavez gonna win.
What does that say if he beats Jake Paul?
Not much. Just a good win. A lot of millions of dollars, and then maybe do a rematch, which is bad. Make a lot of money.
Even a division world champion Manny Pacquiao gave his verdict, and his choice was definitive: Chavez Jr. Pacquiao praised Julio's professional experience and in-ring IQ, stating that no amount of online hype or athleticism can substitute for years of grinding it out against elite-level competition for Pacquiao. This fight isn't close. He sees Chavez Jr. as the vastly more skilled and seasoned fighter, making him the natural favorite against Jake.
But yeah. Asking about Jake Paul. Who do you got in the Jake Paul fight?
Jake Paul and Chavez.
Julio. Viva Julio.
Viva Julio!
Julio.
Bro, shut up.
Julio's winning.
Oh, that's Manny's manager. He's putting it out there.
I'll see you Saturday night. Viva Julio.
Despite doubts from critics, Chavez Jr. is reportedly preparing for this fight with serious intent. Insiders say he's not coasting on his famous last name or past accolades. Instead, he's been training diligently, eating clean, sparring regularly, and focusing on returning to top form. He's treating Jake Paul not as a YouTuber, but as a legitimate opponent who could pull off an upset if taken lightly, something Chavez Jr. appears determined to avoid.
But one thing I've gotten off him during this week is that he's viewing this fight as at least a pathway to some form of redemption. He's not going to get all his fans back. He's not going to redeem himself on the eyes of the fans of his father. But if he can beat Jake Paul and beat him convincingly, maybe don't think quite so much about quitting against Daniel Jacobs or against Fanfara or that terrible performance against Anderson Silva. Like, I think the point is, I think he's coming into this fight with the right approach, with the right mindset. I promise you, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. is not just here for a payday. He is not just here to collect a check and to get whitewashed by Jake Paul over 10 rounds. He's coming to win. He may not win. Jake could turn out to be even better than maybe people generally think, but he's coming to win, and I think it's going to be a competitive fight.
Boxing veteran Gabe Rosado offered his take, emphasizing how invaluable real experience is in high-pressure situations. While Jake Paul has youth and energy on his side, Rosado argued that Chavez Jr. has the mental toughness and grit forged from years of competing at the top level. He's been in championship bouts, survived tough wars, and knows what it's like to dig deep, according to Rosado. Experience can't be bought, it has to be earned through blood, sweat, and bruises.
I really don't know his habits. You know, he has a bad track record on, preparing. But look, man, if Chavez comes in at least 60%, then I think Jake really has a fight, because one thing that Chavez has is experience. He may not have the youth, and the agility that Jake has right now, but he does have the experience. And I think that experience would give Jake a problem.
I completely agree with you. I think this is an excellent fight for Jake Paul. Officially, he is 11-1, but he's really like 2-1 as a boxer.
Yeah.
He's fought Tommy Fury. He fought a couple of no-name cruiserweights. I guess if you want to throw Mike Perry into that list, you can say he's 3-1. But against guys that are traditional boxers, he's a 2-1 fighter.
Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. one of the most respected figures in boxing history, passionately backed his son and issued a stark warning to Jake Paul. He declared that Jake is stepping into waters far deeper than anything he's previously faced. For Chavez Sr., this is about redemption and legacy. He's seen his son rebuild after a chaotic phase of his career, and he believes Julio just discipline, maturity, and hunger will shock anyone who doubts him in this.
He knows exactly what to do. Jake Paul just fought against Mike Tyson, who didn't even throw one punch. This is not Mike Tyson. You are gonna get your ass whooped.
No hay manera de que le gane Jake Paul.
There is no way Jake Paul can.
Esta preparación que hizo Julio, Jake Paul no la sabe, ¿entiendes?
This camp,
Y va a
Jake
salir,
Paul doesn't
va a
know it.
salir a tirarle chingazos y Jake Paul va a andar corriendo como gallina.
Julio's gonna go in throwing some serious punches, and you're gonna be running like a chicken without a head.
Skepticism still surrounds the bout, particularly from those who feel Jake Paul's rise in boxing has been too manufactured. Critics argue that most of his opponents have either been past their prime, not real boxers, or part of made-for-TV storylines. However, Chavez Jr., despite his personal setbacks, is a legitimate threat who has fought world champions.
Let's talk about this one here. This Saturday, June 28th, we've got Jake Paul. He's gonna take on Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. And I don't know if this is a real fight or if it's a fake one. So let's talk about this. Alright, let's say this is a real fight, because I don't know, I don't want to sound like a hater, but some of Jake Paul's fights look like they've been staged. So let's say this is a real fight. This is the real deal. Listen, man, Chavez Jr. has never been the greatest boxer out here. He's lacked in discipline. He's lacked in the sport. But nevertheless, he is a credible opponent. Jake Paul, on the other hand, I don't know, Some of the fights look staged. Some of the knockouts look like the guys have been paid. With that being said, the problem child is taking on Chavez Jr. this weekend. Let's take a look at both men's professional record. Yes, I said professional record. Listen, box rec. This is Jake Paul's professional record. Alright, cool. Let's get into it. 11 wins, 7 coming via knockout, and 1 loss. Let's take a look at Jake Paul's actual professional record. So he's fought 3 professional boxers. 1 Tommy Fury, 1 Andre August, and 1 Ryan Berland.
Legendary boxer and promoter Oscar De La Hoya sees tremendous value in the fight. He claims Chavez Jr. is a massive step up from the string of MMA fighters and influencers Jake has previously faced. De La Hoya believes Chavez's unpredictability, veteran instincts, and pride make him a formidable challenge for Paul. In his view, this is the first time Jake Paul will be stepping in with a fighter who won't crumble under pressure, but will.
I'm really excited, because the only reason I got involved with this is because he's fighting a real fighter now. Julio Cesar Chavez went 12 rounds with Canelo. He is an ex-world champion in boxing. So this is a real legit fight. I'm looking forward to it. I'm obviously questioning what Chavez Jr. will we see. Will he be in great shape? Will he not be in shape? Will he make weight? Will he do a lot of questions behind it? But ultimately, you have to tell yourself, Jake Paul, congratulations. This is the real first legitimate world champion fighter you're fighting.
Trainer Jeff Mayweather offered a more nuanced viewpoint. He acknowledged Chavez's former skills, but questioned how much remains. After years of inconsistency, according to Jeff, the fight may be cleverly timed by Jake's camp to catch Chavez when he's far removed from his prime. While it may look impressive on Jake's resume to beat a former champion, Jeff warns fans not to expect a classic. In his view,
Canelo back down and all that kind of stuff, but is this, another name that just, like I said, gives the detractors more feel for their fighter? Does this help Jake at all?
I don't think it's really gonna help him that much. I mean, it will in the sense that he fought a legitimate fighter that actually was a professional fighter and a world champion. But to get him after a 5-year layoff and him being inactive is almost just like fighting Mike Tyson.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the same thing. It's like an older guy past his prime who hasn't fought in a long time. You know, I guess he doesn't have an MMA career behind him, so maybe that's a good thing, but it's all the same thing that people have always complained about.
Yeah. But I think this is a fight that Jake can win. I mean, legitimately win.
Yeah.
This showdown has reignited the age-old boxing debate. Is youth more powerful than wisdom? Jake Paul, in his prime physically, is stronger, quicker, and possibly more agile. But Julio brings a refined boxing brain. He reads his opponents well, lands precise shots, and manages distance expertly. Some experts argue that Jake's aggression may work early, but Chavez just poise and strategy could wear him down round by round, making timing and knowledge the deciding factors.
How good is Jake Paul's next opponent, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr.? Can he pull off the upset and beat Jake? Now, Chavez Jr. in his prime was a really solid fighter, 46-0, four-time WBC middleweight champion. This is him against Sergio Martinez, a top 3 pound-for-pound fighter. You know, hurt him bad with the left hook, dropped him in the 12th round, nearly got the finish, but Martinez did end up winning this fight. And then after losing the title in 2017, this is him versus Canelo in 2017. You know, solid pressure fighter, good body shots, decent hand speed, but these are pretty much his only highlights in the fight, you know, because he pretty much lost every round 12-0. But still, he did go the distance with Canelo. But then you get to his most recent fight versus Uriah Hall at cruiserweight. You know, he still got some decent body shots, but he looks considerably slower fighting at a heavier weight class. You know, his footwork is a bit plotty, and he's not as fast. You know, look, Chavez Jr., he's not a bad fighter. He's never been a bad fighter. But what he is very undisciplined and considerably slower and more flat-footed at 39 years old fighting at cruiserweight. You know, the technicality, the experience, it will give him a 25 to 30% chance. But the youth, the size, the speed of Jake, that'll give him more of the edge. So Jake Paul versus Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., who wins? Now, this fight should really come down to two things. The youth of Jake versus the experience and technicality of Chavez Jr. Now, Jake, he'll probably be the faster guy, carries more power at cruiserweight. I don't think he's got good footwork by any means, but Chavez Jr. does look more plotty at cruiserweight, considering he is a middleweight / super middleweight moving up in weight later in his career. Now, Chavez Jr., I do think he does a lot of things better than Jake. Defensively, his hand positioning is better, his lead left hook is better, his combinations and body shots are a lot more technical, but ultimately it comes down to can he execute the way he used to? Because if you look at his last fight against Uriah Hall, he didn't throw as much volume as he used to. Like I said, looked a lot heavier on the feet, and this was a 6-round fight, so who knows how his cardio will hold up in a 10-rounder against Jake. But since Chavez Jr. is quite durable, you know, he went 12 with Canelo, went 12 with Sergio Martinez, I do think Jake wins this one by decision, just being the more active guy on the front foot. But for Chavez Jr. having any chance to win, he's got to throw 2 to 3 times more punches than he did in his last couple of fights.
From a business standpoint, the fight is a gold mine. Jake Paul's digital influence combined with the Chavez legacy creates a spectacle that appeals to both hardcore boxing fans and younger digital audiences. It's the perfect storm of boxing. History meets online stardom. Regardless of the outcome, both men are poised to gain enormous exposure.
Breaking news, Jake Paul is going to be taking on former world champion Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. in a fight that I think is going to fool a lot of people. Now, what do I mean by fool a lot of people? What I mean is people are going to, on paper, look at this and be like, oh, Jake Paul gets schooled here, gets schooled here. Chavez Jr. is 39. He was not known as a very disciplined boxer during his prime. That's one of the reasons he had such a heavy decline. He's also a lot smaller than Jake Paul. What I will say about Jake Paul is he is a genius, or his team and management are geniuses at giving him opponents that people on paper look at and be like, oh, Jake Paul's not a real fighter. He won't be able to beat this guy. This is very, 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 very minimal risk for Jake Paul. The only factor that could come into play here is if Chavez Jr. decides he actually wants to show up properly for this fight, conditioned, and use his experience to win. But Jake Paul, for me, and his team have been very, very careful about who they matchmake him against ever since the Tommy Fury fight. You know, ever since here, we haven't seen him in there with someone his own age, his own weight, and his own sort of experience. For me, if Jake Paul wants to be a YouTube boxer still, and he wants to be considered an influencer boxer, matchmaking him against these guys that on paper, oh, this is a big challenge for Jake Paul, in reality, not really, is okay. But I think if Jake Paul actually is what he says he wants to be, and he wants to make that step up, man, he's going to have to take risks.
Some voices in the boxing world remain cynical. They argue Jake Paul isn't taking real risks, pointing to his carefully chosen opponents. The only danger here, they say. Lies and Chavez Jr. showing up in great shape and using his experience effectively. Since the Tommy Fury loss, Jake's camp has been strategic, avoiding boxers in their prime.